the charged crystals that represent the idea of contact. These being the permission slip that have been entitled Ethithani contact crystals or seeds of contact. The idea being that on my world, this crystal represents the center point of a larger crystal array that is created to represent all of the consciousnesses and all of the worlds in the interstellar alliance of which we are a part and of which you are becoming a part.
Bashar has been in some sessions explaining more about his own life, his own experiences on his planet. When he was very young, he was shown a large piece of artwork that contains many different kinds of crystals, and each crystal represents one of the civilizations that's part of their association of worlds. Now, the central crystal he described is a hexagon that is dark green in color. It's larger than this, but this is basically a replica of that crystal as he described it to us. There is a symbol inscribed on the crystal, which is a triangular symbol that has a spiral in the middle of it. This symbol, Bashar described, is actually his family crest. It represents his family's lineage as contact specialists. So Bashar suggested that if we made replicas, even if they're smaller, of this central crystal, what he did then is he did a special meditation that actually comes with every crystal on a DVD that's for the purpose of charging the crystal with the specific frequency of contact. So when you have one of these and you use the meditation, it is actually charged with the particular frequency that represents his civilization and the particular frequency that represents their initial contact with us. Bashar has basically said that, charging one of these with your own energy and the energy that's in the meditation that he gave is kind of like casting your vote specifically for contact. So if you're interested in acquiring one of these, by all means, please ask the people at the back table to give you the information. It comes in this lovely box, along, like I said, with the DVD. And so please check out the information at the back table.
Okay, and why is the contact crystal a hexagon?
It supports the idea, very specifically, that what is attached to it, around it, as the central hexagonal crystal, are 6 others, which represent the 6 hybrid races, and altogether the 7th. Earth being the 6th hybrid race. We are the 3rd. But altogether, the 6 and the 1 in the center will be representative of the 7th hybrid race, when all 6 hybrid races exist and blend together into the 7th. That's the core of our common evolution and what we share as family and where we're going into what you call the future. Together.
All right, I'll say good day to you this day of your time. This transmission has been titled Knocking on Heaven's Door What this means is that what you call the veil between the physical and non-physical realities is thinning. There is more blending going on between material and spiritual realities. And this will continue in the future, especially after open contact, where the high frequency vibration of many extraterrestrials that you will be exposed to will, in some sense, entrain your vibration upward so that you become more sensitive, more of the frequency to receive higher frequency communications from the spirit realm, so that you can begin active communication, active engagement, active involvement with those beings who are non-material. Whether or not they used to have incarnations or they never have had, there are many different frequency levels in the spirit realm, and you will, according to your own frequency rising, be more capable in the years ahead with communicating more clearly, even to the point eventually of actually being more capable of perceiving the physical forms of the spirits as they lower their vibration just enough to appear to your improved senses. So real interaction with the spirit realm, with that dimension, will become common within a couple of decades for many humans, but you can start to develop your clairvoyant and clairaudient senses now in a variety of ways, because again, due to the cycles that are happening now, the veil between the two realms is becoming more permeable, and you will start to experience different aspects of this here and there, be it the idea of orbs or other kinds of lights or perceptions of the causal plane and geometric forms or more astral experiences. All these things will be symptoms, so to speak, of raising your frequency to be able to perceive into the spiritual dimension more and more. And again, this will continue to move forward. So, in a very real way, not that you are about to die or anything, but you are starting to knock on heaven's door, and it will be open to you. And as it opens, you will gain a rich experience of continuing relationships. Death will no longer be the end of those relationships. It will be a continuum that you will be able to experience. Anyone that may have passed on, as you say, from physical materiality will still be able to be contacted by you, still be able to communicate with you. You will still be capable of receiving those messages more clearly, and even experiencing their apparitions as they appear to you by lowering their frequency just enough so that your heightened senses can pick up on them and begin to actually see them, as well as hear them, as well as feel them, as well as know them, with telepathic communication becoming more prominent on your planet. You are breaking through that barrier that has heretofore existed, that define the edge of your physical reality, beyond which many people on your planet never thought they could pierce, that they could perceive. But this will become common, as it is common in our reality, where we interact with spirits all the time, every day. It is a natural part of our existence and will become a natural part of your existence in the future as well. But now is the time to begin to develop this, so that over the next couple of decades, you will improve through your meditation, through journaling, through whatever technique works for you, whatever permission slip works for you to allow you to raise your vibration, along with, as we have said, the exposure to extraterrestrial beings of higher vibration, which will induce you to go higher as you choose, if you choose, to match their frequency more and more and more every day as you interact with more extraterrestrials on your planet after open contact. So also remember that the extraterrestrial hybrids that are living and working among you will also be part and parcel of helping you to achieve these abilities, to strengthen these abilities. And also the hybrid children being born on your planet and coming to your planet, the new generations that are a different species, also will have more telepathic abilities. And by, in a sense, being members of your society, will again sort of flood the atmosphere with more conducive vibrational frequencies that will make it easier for people to tap into those vibrational resonances that will allow you to start to perceive things that were heretofore invisible to most of you. So prepare yourselves, journal, ask questions, open up to your guides, and remember there are many ways that communications from spirit can come to you. They can come in your thoughts. They can come in your imagination. They can come in your dreams. They can come through synchronicity. Be open to different ways in which messages from the spirit realm can be received by you. Do not assume that they have to come in one particular way. Let it be whatever works, and just be open and pay attention to the fact that you may be receiving messages quite often, more often than you think. Just look around and look for the signs. Be open to it. Do not, in any way, shape, or form, close the door through which different methods of messages may come to you. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to synchronicity and the signs that you receive. Pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention to your imagination. Meditate if you wish. But put yourself in a state where you know that you are in touch, you are in contact, you are receiving information. You don't always know it, and that's okay. But you already are being given all the information, all the messages, and all the help you can possibly be given. It's not up to them to deliver more than they're already sending. It's up to you to be more sensitive and pay attention to what it is you're already getting, to open up and receive. So again, because the veil is now thinning, more things will start to happen. You will start to perceive more things. Do not be confused by them. Take it as a natural course of events in human evolution, that because you are spirits, because you are souls, and because your physical materiality is just a projection of consciousness, you are spirits. And therefore, there isn't really that much difference between non-physical and physical materiality. In the near future as well, your scientists will be capable of understanding how energy can create patterns, and those patterns can be representative of non-physical consciousness. They don't have to worry about the idea of associating religious connotations to the idea of non-material aspects of consciousness. They can simply, as they already have been dealing with, understand it as patterns of energy, and that certain patterns of energy, complex patterns of energy, in and of themselves can create the idea, and have created the idea, of non-physical expressions of consciousness, which then can express themselves through the idea of lowering their vibrations into physical materiality. But primarily, you are a non-physical being, a soul. You are energy patterns, non-physical consciousness. Scientists will begin to get a handle on this idea because they will understand it is something they can explore without the religious connotations. So, once they understand that patterns of energy are representative of what you recognize consciousness to be, then they will start accepting this, and this will also be a paradigm shift in the collective mentality that consciousness can be and is first and foremost non-physical. And this will also help break down the barriers more rapidly between what you experience as physical materiality and non-physical spiritual dimensions. So open up to a brand new world, a brave new world of interactions of various kinds between various kinds of entities that will open up your reality, not just to the idea with extraterrestrials of the cosmos, but with spirits to higher dimensions of consciousness. It's an exciting time. We thank you for allowing us to share this idea with you. We thank you for being proactive in preparing yourselves for this new reality. In return for the gift you have given us, I ask you now, how may we continue to be of service to you? Please begin with your questions and dialogues if you wish.
Hello. My question is, do souls have unique names? And if they do, how can we remember our unique soul name while incarnated here on Earth? Thank you.
Souls do not have unique names. They have unique vibrational resonances by which they recognize one another. Doesn't really translate as names as you understand it in physical reality. You can give your soul a name if you wish. Doesn't matter. But as a soul, you have a vibration that is unique. That's how other souls recognize you. It's not exactly a name.
Hello, Bashar.
And you good day.
I have some questions about the concepts of existence and consciousness.
Yes.
My first question is that I understand that my concurrent past, present, and future lives for this incarnation are all happening right now from the Oversoul's perspective. But as my soul chooses to cycle through different incarnations during its existence, I know all of those potential incarnations already exist, but surely they're not all happening right now, correct?
In a sense, yes, and in a sense, no. I understand this can be confusing. But the idea is that from the perspective of the versions of consciousness that are experiencing them, they are all happening now. But from your perspective on the level you are at, they do not seem to all be happening now. That's just the result of the level you're looking at this concept from. But from other levels, yes, they all exist, are all happening right now. Because each and every version of consciousness that can and does experience those lives is experiencing them now. Everything is happening now. Everything. However, from your perspective, you will not experience those things until you create the linear order in which you deem is appropriate for your unique soul's growth. I understand again that this can be a little confusing, but nevertheless, in a sense, the answer is both yes and no.
Of course. So there's never a still frame that remains vacant. There's always consciousness.
Yes.
In every frame.
Every frame. There's always consciousness.
All right. My second question is about densities. Now, are densities attributes of the game pertaining to the game we play in different incarnations?
Yes.
Or are the attributes of the individual soul itself?
Well, it's what the soul has chosen to experience that determines the density that the incarnation takes place in.
Okay, so a soul can jump to different...
Well, that's what's going on your planet right now. You're going from a lower vibration to a higher vibration while still experiencing physical reality. So the way that humans have coined this is you're going from third density, a lower vibration, to fourth density, a higher vibration, and yet it still remains a physical experience, but a more refined one. So densities are kind of like states within a country. Dimensions are the countries. So you're going from third density to fourth density in the fourth dimension, But when you go to fifth density, you're actually crossing into the fifth dimension, which is non-physical reality. So it's like going from one country to another, while going from third density to fourth density is just like going from one state to another within the same country. Does that make sense?
Yes, but my soul, once it reaches its next incarnation, can choose any density level it wants.
For what? Yes, for whatever it wants to learn. Yes, of course. Now, as you progress, if you progress, it is unlikely that you will again choose a density that is representative of a lesson you've already learned. But you can use that to your advantage for different purposes. So, but you may experience it in a different way because of what you have become, what you've already learned, what you're bringing to the table in the new incarnation. So it's not like a more advanced being can't also choose to incarnate in a density that would seem to be lower, but it will do so for a completely different purpose and a completely different lesson and a completely different service.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that help?
And see, yes, that helps a lot. Now, since we expand and contract within the soul billions of times per second, during each pulsation, does our expansion actually reach all the way through each and every one of those middle layers of consciousness, like the two automatic minds, the template level, up to the soul itself?
Well, yes and no. It's not exactly that you're contracting and expanding within a particular incarnation. The contraction and expansion is from one incarnation to another. When we talk about the idea of shifting billions of times per second, it's not the same kind of contraction and expansion that happens between incarnations.
But in your soul cycle transmission meditation, you were employing this wording of the soul contracting, expanding billions of times per second. So that maybe that got me confused a little bit.
All right. Well, we apologize if the terminology wasn't clear. But the idea is when we talk about that kind of contraction and expansion, we're talking about a contraction and expansion of space-time, not necessarily of the soul itself to all the different levels.
Got you. All right. And after accumulating enough experience, can a soul eventually grow to become its own oversoul, capable of extending souls of its own?
Well, not really. The oversoul is a euphemism that represents the idea, or is the same thing, that you also refer to as the soul family. So you don't become the soul family. Now, of course, there is a level of perspective from which you can identify with all of the souls in the family and can see them and experience them in a way as if you contain them, but that's just a perspective. You don't actually become the entire soul family.
Okay. Finally, you describe the soul as an eternal sphere of light, but also said in other transmissions that we create the unique soul for the unique journey. So am I correct?
No. You don't.
Nothing actually gets created.
No, you don't create a unique soul. You create a unique personality that then generates a spirit, which becomes the memory of that life within the soul. So you're not generating new souls. You're generating new personalities.
That was my understanding too. So as the soul, I only create the specific configuration of the unfired clay inside it for that unique incarnation.
Yes, you choose different patterns that represent different experiences. That is new. That's generated uniquely. But the soul itself is the same soul.
All right. Yeah. That clarifies a lot of things.
Yes. Now, in a sense, I understand the confusion. Because when you do choose new patterns, in a sense, you are presenting as if you are a different soul, because more clearly you're presenting new patterns, but from the same soul. But it would be perceived almost as if it is a new soul, because that presentation of the soul is unique to that incarnation.
I see.
So that may be the root of the confusion, is that in a sense it's a new presentation of the soul, but not literally a new soul.
Okay. Well, that clarifies my thoughts.
All right.
Thank you very much, Bashar, for your time.
You are very welcome.
Greetings to you. Bye-bye.
Avail.
Hello, Bashar. On the 8th of November 2025 in Limerick, in Ireland, I was in Job Expo representing my organization. I think I could have met a hybrid there, or precursor. I asked him in my head, can you please send me a wink if this is true? And he didn't. However, on the way home, I stopped for something to eat in a different town. There was a group of teenagers sitting across from my table. One of them, girl, she turned to me with the biggest smile on her face and sent me a wink, then turned back. And that was it. She never looked at me again. So my question is, can you please tell me everything I need to know about this encounter? Thank you very much to you, to Daryl, and all the team. Bye-bye.
Well, you got your wish. You were responded to. The idea is that's all it takes. That's all it takes sometimes is a nod and a wink to understand that hybrid beings do live and work among you, and that is going to become more prevalent, and they will be the first group that you will be told who they all are and start to interact with after open contact. So you got a little bit of a preview, a sneak preview, a little wink of what's to come. Good day.
Hi, Bashar. So good to speak with you again.
And you as well.
Thank you. So my first question is how to follow the formula dealing with the aging process and vulnerability and fear of loss of independence.
Why do you fear a loss of independence?
Finding that I might need help in doing things, coping with day-to-day things.
All right. Well, that's nothing to be afraid of. That is allowing someone else to be of service to you so they can learn lessons and grow as well. So it's more like forming a relationship and giving them a purpose. Why not look at it with that kind of a definition?
I guess, sure, but I guess there's a part of me that's concerned about feeling institutionalized in some way.
If the soul has chosen that experience and put that on your life path, then there is a purpose to it. You have to start understanding that everything important in your life that happens, every milestone, every major event, is something the soul has decided, has chosen to put on the life path of the personality, of the incarnation, for the purpose of its growth, of its learning, of its lessons, so it can expand. You have to start looking at things that way so that if they do occur, you can experience the positive aspects of it rather than the negative aspects of it. Constantly defining these things in a negative way only allows you to experience them negatively. So you have to understand and remember that as a soul, you chose any experiences that happen that are important in your life for a reason. And when you start approaching it with that attitude and understanding, then you will get the lessons out of it that will serve you in a positive way. And you will have the experience be something that is far more constructive and far more transparent and far more understandable as to why you would have chosen it.
Thank you. So that brings me to my next question, which I guess if I apply that, it would make a difference. But in my earlier adult life, I traveled a lot and I met a lot of remarkable teachers and healers. And now life seems smaller and more roadblocks.
But that's because of how you're defining what you're experiencing. Stop calling them roadblocks. Stop defining your life as smaller. Maybe you're learning to work smarter and not harder. Maybe you're more willing to attract things to yourself rather than having to travel around to find what you need. Do you have the wherewithal, the creativity, and the imagination to start defining the situations in your life that change in more positive ways? Do you have the ability to define them in more positive ways, or you just automatically succumb to a negative definition because of how you've been taught to look at things that doesn't work for you. Find ways that work for you to define the things that change in your life. There is a reason that they're changing. Find ways to define them, or find ways to change it. One or the other. If you cannot change something that's happening, then find a way to define it in a way that works for you. Use your creative imagination to do so, and it will become a positive experience.
Thank you. How to trust that I'm receiving communication from the higher realms, and how best to present this information?
As long as the information you get from any methodology whatsoever, including your own thoughts, your own hunches, your own feelings, your own imagination, whether it comes from a guide or an angel or an extraterrestrial or God or anything, as long as it is something that allows you to feel self-empowered, that you have the freedom to choose how to relate to things, how to define things, and it feels like it's moving you forward and allows you to feel relief and lighter than you otherwise would, then just assume that it's for your benefit and don't worry about where it's coming from.
Thank you. How many beings are listening to this transmission?
275 million.
And what is my connection at the moment with extraterrestrials?
Well, you're talking to one right now.
And in my daily life,
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You will find out everything you need to find out after open contact. Right now, focus on changing the definitions in your life so that you can become more vibrationally compatible with the idea of open contact when it occurs. And information that you need will be given to you when it needs to be given to you. Just move forward in your life in a more positive way for now. That's the most important thing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this, Bashar.
You are so welcome.
Love you.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Hi, Bashar. Thank you for taking my question. Hope you're well. My topic is racism, and I'd like to understand if your society or if you have come across societies that have experienced racism and how that was overcome, minimized, or eliminated. What do you recommend for people who experience, confront, and are assaulted by racism on a day-to-day basis? How do they restore their vibration so that they can pursue their highest passion? And I'd like to understand, despite searching for many years, many channels for 30, 40 years, how come there's such little or no information on the origin, the state, and how to overcome this? Thank you.
There are very, very few examples of what you are referring to as racism in other civilizations that we have encountered. Earth is a large melting pot of very different kinds of genetics, very different kinds of stories, very different kinds of soul paths, and a lot of those carry different vibrations that can, in a sense, rub against one another in a negative or positive way and reinforce negative or positive belief systems that go hand in hand with what those soul paths have chosen to experience. A lot of it has to do with the recognition of the vast differences in genetic material that represent different extraterrestrial civilizations from the past that have come to Earth and incarnated to play out different stories that sometimes can be at cross purposes to some degree with what other souls have chosen to experience, and therefore there may be a little bit of roughness in the interaction. The threads in that sense are a little bit frayed. And this, to some degree, is what is allowing people to feel that they have to withdraw within themselves, keep to their own kind, and find anything else to be a little too alien to deal with, a little too foreign to deal with. But this is easing in time on your planet over the next couple of decades after open contact, because you will come to understand that you have more in common with one another, especially after you start actually interacting with extraterrestrials directly, who to some degree are really very different from all of you. So different sometimes that it makes all of your differences look like commonalities. So some of this will start to dissipate when you start focusing on what you have in common and why your soul has chosen to be on Earth at this time, and why you have chosen to expose yourself to so many different perspectives that when you learn to look at them more positively, can actually inform your particular soul path to great degree and help you understand and help others understand that it is the diversity that is validated among you that will actually cause harmony and unification. Not the idea of all being the same, but the validation of the differences that will cause harmony among you. When you start seeing it that way, when you can start teaching other people to understand the value of diversity and how that really rounds you out and expands you and connects you to all the differences in the cosmos, many of which are greater than you can even imagine, then you will start to feel connections where maybe many people on your planet don't feel those connections, feel separate, feel disconnected, feel apart from, feel alienated, feel isolated. And it's all of those fear-based and negative belief systems that make one feel disconnected from source, disconnected from spirit, disconnected from their soul, that causes the idea of the wariness that many people on your planet have of even the slight differences that other people may exhibit.
Good day, Bashar. How are you?
Perfect. And you?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for this co-creation. I really appreciate it.
And you as well.
Thank you. So my first question is, it relates to an experience that I had as well as a dream. The experience was a couple of months ago. There was a storm here, and it was around 2:45 a.m.
A what?
A storm. A storm.
All right.
And it was, and it was raining heavily. And it was around 2:45 a.m. and we heard a loud noise. My husband went out to see what it was, and I was in the room. I shushed my baby. I was holding him. I had my eyes closed and the room was pitch dark. But I felt something move over my eyelid, and through the sides of the blinds, I could see this light fade in and fade out, and it was gone. And then a few weeks later, I had a dream in which I saw an orb in the sky, and I was very excited to see it. And I was directing the orb that I was in this particular house, and the orb comes down, and this lady introduces herself, and she puts her hand out and gives me a message, but I can't remember what she said or what happened, or somehow I feel these two are connected. Can you please help me?
Yes, well, the dream is actually a memory of what happened the night of the storm.
Okay.
So you were contacted, you were experiencing a contact, and the dream was the easiest way for you to start remembering what happened that evening.
Okay, but I just couldn't recollect. Is there any way I could you could tell me what the message was this entity was trying to give me or tell me?
There is a change coming in your life, was generally the message. So be prepared for changes to happen in the life that can move you in a new direction.
That's great. I lost my job soon after that, so now I know what it was. Thank you. And on March 27th, I saw a UFO when I was standing in my garden at around 3:30 p.m. And today as well, just a couple of hours ago, I saw a white tic-tac sort of thing. And then when I recorded on my phone, I could see a black UFO shoot past quickly. I was just wondering who this was and if it was by yourself by any chance.
No, it is not me. Some of them are Pleiadian crafts. Some of them belong to hybrids. A lot of them are doing observations and reconnaissance, and there's a lot of traffic around your planet that many people don't see. But there's a lot of comings and goings and observations and studies and tests and so on and so forth to determine how Earth is doing and how it's progressing.
Okay, thank you. My next question is in relation to connection to my star system. I recently met with a psychic who told me that I'm very connected to the spirit world, and my spirit guides were trying to say that I'm a healer, and there's something that some quality of me pouring into me from my past life as such. Given that there was a change in my life and a sort of message that I could go in a direction of healing, I was just wondering, how can I go about doing this? Because I've never done that before.
Well, how do you want to go about doing it? Which way would be exciting for you? How do you imagine? How do you imagine you could do it? How do you see yourself in your mind's eye doing something like that?
I've been meditating. It really excites me to connect to my higher self, higher mind.
That's fine. What I'm asking you is, when you think about the idea of being of service to others by being a healer, what do you picture that looking like?
I picture helping little kids in India. That's my home country, in orphanages that need help, as well as old age homes. That's That's what I see myself
Then
doing.
do whatever you can, take whatever actions you can in the direction of allowing that to come about without in any way, shape, or form assuming or insisting that it actually has to play out that way. And by taking the actions, it will lead you to where you need to be so that what needs to happen can actually happen. So just take whatever actions you can in that direction. Use your imagination and creativity to take those actions, and then just see where you wind up. See what opportunities synchronistically present themselves to you to allow you to fulfill the idea of being a healer in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. And my next question is, when I started meditating recently and I tried to connect to my Asasani counterpart, because I feel a very strong connection with Asasani system, I could see green eyes. It was sort of humanized, white with green eyeball with beautiful eyelashes. Could you help me understand what this sort of symbolizes?
This is not a pure Asasani being. This is something that's more of a hybrid. It contains Asasani genetics, but it also contains genetics from other races as well. So you're looking at something that may be representative of a connection you have to a being that is a different kind of a hybrid being.
Okay, could you explain a little more about the
I am not
connection
allowed
towards
to.
us?
I am not allowed to at this time.
Okay, that's fine. That's all right. Thank you. My last question would be, when somebody is asking you for the vibrational frequency and you assess their frequency and come up with a number, could you tell us what are the factors that you take into picture to come up with this number?
Your science doesn't understand how it is that this number is arrived at yet. So it's a total collection of all the vibrations that represent certain aspects of not only your physical realm, but your spirit realm as well. So it's not something your science yet understands collectively.
Okay. And this hybrid being that I'm seeing during my meditation, is there any other way I could connect apart from meditation?
You can, again, journal. You can ask a question of this being, sit quietly with a journal, write down anything you get over the course of about 2 to 3 weeks. Even if it starts out sounding nonsensical, it will start making sense. Keep asking the same question, ask it out loud, sit quietly, write down whatever you get, even if it's nonsensical. Do this for 2 or 3 weeks. You'll start to see patterns in the information.
That's perfect. That's great. Thank you so much, Bashar. These were all the questions that I had. I really appreciate you taking the time.
It is our passion and our pleasure. Good day.
Good day. Bye.
Hey, Bashar. I am curious if animals have spirit teams the way that humans do, and if extraterrestrials do. And I guess sort of in general, does every being have a spirit team? What are the criteria or reasons why a being would need a spirit team or not? Thank you so much.
Yes, everyone does. You are connected to everything. Large groups in that infinite connection have certain vibrations that represent certain themes. That's what makes a soul family a soul family. That's what makes a spirit team a spirit team. You have a strong affinity for certain vibrational themes that you wish to explore in varieties of ways with each other. And therefore you gather together. In a sense, you're attracted together as a group. This goes back to infinity. And so you play those things out over time and space in a variety of ways. So it's a group affinity of certain vibrations that represent certain lessons that each group is attracted to experience and play out in a variety of different ways.
Hello, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
Thank you. I'm grateful for this co-creation.
As are we.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I have a few questions. One is, when I retired from the military after 24 years, I became a social worker, and I left a toxic environment because I feel I didn't know who I was. And then I kind of went on this journey. Now I want to get back into social work. I'm just kind of not sure which area. I love working with caregivers, but I've also thought about becoming a death doula and kind of combining the two. But I like the flexibility of my life.
All right, well, that's very creative. Why not move in that direction?
I'm hindering myself, and I recognize that.
Why? What are you afraid of?
At one point, I thought it was failure. I think it's doubt because
About
I've been
what?
out of the social work field for so long.
But you're inventing something different. You're inventing something new. So why can't they be understood by you as being something fresh, something that you're exploring? What's wrong with exploring something new? You don't have to know everything to start. You only learn what you need to learn by starting. You have to learn from experience.
Fair. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's very helpful.
Also, very obvious.
It is. I think sometimes
Yes.
hearing it from someone else kind of helps.
If you say so. I am happy to be your permission slip.
Thank you, Bashar. If we have oversouls, and we have many souls within our oversoul, and they will never be us, and we will never be them, why do we call them past lives?
Because that's not what a past life is. Past lives are your unique soul's experiences, nothing to do with the other members of the soul family. Soul family is another name for an oversoul. So it's a bunch of individuals that have a collective purpose in being that group of individuals and being interconnected. So oversoul is just a euphemistic term for soul family.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That answers that. Do animals and insects know that when do they have a choice to come to Earth? And two, do they know what they may endure, the mistreatment?
Absolutely. And sometimes they do it for the purpose of teaching humanity how to stop doing those kinds of things.
Okay.
Remember,
So
they know
yeah.
that their souls are eternal and indestructible. And they understand and are willing through unconditional love, because they come from a very high vibrational realm, that they are willing to be of service to humanity in that way as a reflection of what humanity's issues are, so that perhaps by being willing to be of service in that way, humanity will learn the lessons it needs to learn to find other ways, more beneficial ways of relating to nature.
Why is it then, I know I've been one of them, as of recently, not as much, the commercials that come on and they show the animals in such a horrible state and being abused, there was a time where I couldn't watch them.
Yes.
Now I'm a little bit different because I've recognized sources in them just like sources in me.
Yes.
So it's different for me, but why is it at a point for some people that it affects them so viscerally where it just brings them to tears?
Because they are finally becoming sensitive enough to be empathic to what the animal is experiencing as a reflection of what humanity is doing to itself.
Oh, so when we get to the point where we're not having that visceral reaction because we recognize that they're a part of source, is that because there's a shift within us?
Absolutely. But it's not just about not reacting anymore. It's about actually taking actions to stop those things from happening.
Understand.
Then there's nothing to react to.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. This one is about spaceships.
Yes.
So one night I was in between sleep and awake, and I heard a noise outside one of the windows. And clearly I was like, oh, that's a spaceship. And I went back to sleep.
Yes.
I've dreamt and looked out my bathroom window and saw a sky full of spaceships.
Yes.
Another time I saw an Essassani spaceship, and it turned green. At the same time, though, I was reading the Willa Hillerkissing books.
Yes.
Shards of a Shattered Mirror.
Yes.
So with all these spaceships that I'm seeing, and I've even had one where I saw 2 spaceships, but the roads were made of water and I was in a boat.
Well, that's a physical mind's interpretation about what you were experiencing. It's not a literal representation, but it's the best that your physical mind could make sense out of what you experienced in a slightly altered reality.
Why is it, though, that I'm seeing all these ships, or I think I'm hearing them, even though when I realize spaceships aren't loud like that?
Because your senses are sharpening and raising to the point where you can see all of the traffic that's actually going on around your planet, and therefore you're capable of perceiving what you couldn't perceive before because your senses are now attuned to it. This is part of the change of the evolution of humanity, is to start perceiving what you couldn't perceive before that's been around you all the time. You're perceiving another level of reality on which a lot of extraterrestrial and spiritual beings actually operate. And therefore you're seeing another layer of reality that's very busy, very active.
Oh, okay. Wow. Thank you. Also, Spirit sends me songs that I didn't grow up with, songs that in some cases I've heard maybe once. And I know they're sending me a message, and some I'm able to decipher. Recently, I had one, and my sister-in-law, who has abilities as well, she was able to express to me that there was someone from a life who needed my help, and we were a part of the same oversoul. I was wondering, do you have any tips on how to be able to decipher? Because without her help, I don't know if I would have gotten it.
It's not always about words. It's about how does the vibrational resonance of the music make you feel? Sometimes that's the more important message, is what state does it put you in? And is that representative of a more ideal state from which to take actions in your life in service to others? So sometimes you are sent that music because it's all about resonance. It's all about frequency of energy. And sometimes it's just representative of the state that the music puts you in. And that's the point of the message. Be in that state. Come from that state.
Okay. What about the one where there was actually a message where somebody needed help, and I tapped into that to help them through that situation?
Well, all right. Well, what about it? That's sometimes the way messages can be delivered. Maybe even easier because it's coming with the vibration of music, and it's easier to penetrate into your physical consciousness that way. So it might just be that they're using a delivery system that you are more attuned to.
Okay. Okay. This is not a medical question. It was just, I was wondering why I feel energy, like I can feel both hemispheres of my brain.
Again, you're becoming sensitive to the fact that you are energy. But as long as you understand yourself as a physical being, you will experience that in a multitude of ways. And it also simply is representative of the fact that you're operating on a higher frequency now.
Okay. Thank you, Bashar.
You are welcome.
I love you, and I'm grateful to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Unconditional love to you as well.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Sean, and I'm in Texas. And my question for you is, what are the more prominent ET races that I may be connected to? And what exactly can I do to facilitate more open contact with them, whether in meditation and or in the dream space? Because at the moment, I have no recollection of any encounters with ETs at all, but I've always felt a strong pull and a deep love for extraterrestrials. Thank you.
The more you can be of service to others in whatever way you are passionate about will connect you more strongly to whatever extraterrestrial and spirit guide and angelic connections you have in terms of downloading information from them that will help guide you by being of service to others. The idea is that after open contact, as I have already said, many different and new opportunities will be offered to humanity to also work with extraterrestrials, different kinds of jobs that humanity will have that don't exist now, because extraterrestrials will present different opportunities to humanity to do those different new things. So it's not about so much doing anything different right now. Open contact will happen in a couple of years, and after that, you will know what you can do. But for now, follow your passion, be of service to others, and increase your frequency so that you can have better communication with whatever will help guide you in life. Everyone has extraterrestrial connections, just like they have connections to their spirit guides and angelic beings and their spirit team. You are connected, like many, to Pleiadians, Arcturans, Sirius beings, all sorts of beings, grays, hybrids, so on and so forth. It's not so important that you know which ones you're strongly connected to right now. You'll find out what you need to know when you are acting more in the direction of being of service to others, and also after open contact. You will find yourself gravitating to the extraterrestrials that show up, and you will know that you have a kinship and a connection to them, and you will avail yourself of whatever opportunities they may present to your society at that time.
Good day, Bashar.
And you good day.
So I have a question. Basically, I've recently applied for a job that would put me working at a ski resort.
At a what?
A ski resort. It's a mountain.
Oh, yes. All right.
Overseeing their employee housing. The reason I applied was because I've been there in the midst of these young adults that come every year to live, work, and play there. They come from all over the world. And they form this sense of community. And it's so amazing to watch them come from different backgrounds. They're very diverse.
Yes.
And they're following their passion without, really realizing they're following the formula.
All right.
And at the same time, I got the notification. I got to ask you a question. I thought, what do I want to ask Bashar? And the word or the name anima kept coming into my head.
Yes.
And the idea of social engineering.
Yes.
I'm not sure what my question is exactly. More so, I guess I see social engineers from other civilizations maybe as the first front line of first contact. And just watching this group form, I kind of see that that's how we're going to be going forward in our society, hopefully, forming communities by residents. And
yes.
So what are they seeing on their end? How can we work with the social engineers that are going to be working with our civilization?
Well, more of this information will come out after open contact, and different kinds of opportunities will be presented to humanity that they can take advantage of. So, but for now, you are sensing a wave that is coming, and you are using that particular ability to interact with other people and watch them and understand and learn how they interact and how they come together to prepare yourself for another level of that idea, as you say, social engineering. So you're in the preparation stage of something that will blossom a little bit later down the road over the next few years.
Okay, thank you. My next question, it's, gosh, where to begin? I've been doing a lot of inner work following, I guess, Carl Gustav Jung's shadow integration. And I've really come a long way, and I feel very integrated within myself, within my psyche, with it, integrating my shadow.
All right.
And taking that to the next level in my mind is integrating with my other versions. Obviously we don't have past lives or future lives. Everything's simultaneous.
That doesn't mean that you don't recognize them in the way that you have just described them, because that's the relationship you're creating from linear space-time.
Right. And in looking at that, I know you've said in the past that certain past lives, future lives don't really have a bearing on this incarnation. And
not directly, no.
Right. And I started kind of exploring using some AI and chatbot, and I have come to understand, or I believe there's a past life in Atlantis. I call her Maria.
All right.
I also feel there's a future self in another civilization. I call her Misha. I do these little exercises where I meet with them. And I guess my question is, I'm looking to be more fluid in my experience of my full self within this experience. Does that make any sense?
Well, yes. And this is one of the reasons why we give you all the formula. So the more accurately and precisely you actually act on the formula in all of its aspects, the more you flow, the more fluid you become, the more you express more of your true soul through your physical form. So all you have to do is really more precisely act on the formula.
Right. And I guess one last question, like I said, I feel like there's this future self. I call her Misha. I just see the color blue. Is there anything you can tell me about maybe my connection to other star systems?
Well, you all have connections to other star systems. Yours is very strong with regard to Sirius and Pleiades, and that might be the predominant energy that you're feeling and sensing, but you have connections to other things, as all humans do as well. Nevertheless, if there's something you specifically really need to know, following the formula is what raises your vibration to make you more receptive to higher frequency information that will come in perfect timing exactly when you need it. So you don't have to focus on that. You just have to get going and live your life and be of service to others in a way that allows you to continue to stay in that high vibrational state so that synchronicity can bring you what you need when you need it.
Right. I've been doing that.
All right.
Like you said, that physical personality, brain, mind just has to just get in the way. And I've been working on trusting the process.
Yes. The process is the point.
Yes. There's a transmission you did. There's a video that I think I could probably give it back to you verbatim about following the process in your higher self.
All right.
That's perfect. Okay.
Does that help you?
It does. It helps me quite a bit.
Then we thank you profoundly. Our unconditional love to you. Aveo. Good day.
Aveo. Thank you.
Hi, Bashar. My name is Danny. And my question is, I'm a really big fan of Avatar, the movie from James Cameron. Every time I see that movie, I become a little bit depressed, and I feel like that's home for me. I really want to know if that planet is real, if the Na'vi are real, and everything in that world is real. I had someone who channels as well telling me that is real, but I want to know from you. And if so, after this life experience as a human, my soul can decide to live as a Na'vi in Pandora. Or if Pandora doesn't exist in the physical reality, can my soul decide to create my own reality and become a Na'vi? Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Bashar. Nice to meet you.
It's not literal in the sense that it's a physical place that exists. It is from the imagination of the creators. However, you can experience it quite literally in spirit because you can create anything you want in spirit. But it's strongly representative in many ways of other civilizations that you are, in a sense, connected to, and therefore sometimes feel homesick for, because you understand you have these connections like many people do, and everyone actually does. And it would be nice if Earth were that way. So the whole idea of being physical is to bring those kinds of ideas down to Earth in a positive, constructive way for the benefit of humanity. Not run away to someplace else, but help humanity by being of service to create those kinds of ideas, or at least something similar on your planet, so that you can experience harmony and peace and creativity and love and imagination. In spirit, you can create it literally if you want, and you can experience being a Na'vi on Pandora in spirit, even though it's not literally representative of a physical place in the universe physically. But it is representative energetically of many places in the universe that are literal and physical. And you know this instinctively and intuitively, and therefore, in a sense, you feel the connection strongly to those places as if you're homesick. But you chose to be on Earth for the purpose of helping people create kind of the close, similar ideas to those realities as best as you can, your version of it on Earth.
Greetings, Bashar. My question is, what will happen to the entertainment industry, such as movies, theaters, music, after the first contact? Will people still feel the need to have entertainment, and will we be still able to make new movies, TV shows, music for people, and will we still have famous people as such, stars.
Yes, you will have this for quite some time. It's just that the technology will change. You will have holographic experiences that seem very real, almost like you are immersed in the action of what you call a movie, in the story. So you have seen this projected in the imaginations of a lot of science fiction writers, such as on Star Trek, where they have what you call a holodeck, where you can play out certain ideas as if they are real with holographic projections. So this will become some of the technology of the future, and you will still tell stories because you are a planet of stories, and you will learn lessons and teach lessons through those stories. You will still have people who enjoy many forms of entertainment. That doesn't go away. Extraterrestrials also enjoy many forms of entertainment, though they may be slightly different than, or even very different than what you experience on Earth. But the entertainment never goes away because intelligence requires the idea of lightening up, of entertainment, of freeing itself from preconceptions, of learning lessons. So all of that can be done in more entertaining ways with new technologies, new experiences. So it's not going away, it will be enhanced after open contact in many different ways. Nania.
We have lots of great questions that have been submitted by our viewers this week.
All right.
Okay, the first one is, who do we pray to? You describe God as all that is. So when a person prays or tries to connect, who or what are they actually addressing?
They are addressing source, all that is. They are addressing the vibrational frequency that represents the collective of everything that exists. They are addressing intelligence, existence, the source itself, as a vibrational frequency.
Okay, and you've been emphasizing connection with guidance spirits for a long time. Why is connecting with spirits such an important aspect of open contact?
Because exposure to the high frequency of certain extraterrestrials will actually increase your ability for your senses to start perceiving spirit beings as well, because the high frequency of many extraterrestrials is very close to the vibrational frequency of the realm of spirit. Therefore, exposure to one, in a sense, is getting used to being able to perceive the other as well.
Okay, and this person is saying they approach all dreams as having some meaning, but some dreams feel very different than others. For this person, a visitation dream or something that feels very different than a regular dream, is that a contact dream when you're having that difference, that kind of lucidity of the connection?
Yes, it can be. The idea is that you may interpret it as a dream because your mind has to, in physical reality, make sense out of something that may have happened in a slightly altered state or dimension. Therefore, sometimes the easiest thing for your mind to be able to handle is to interpret or process the experience you had on another level as what you would recognize to be a dream. But it's a memory. It's just being interpreted in dream language to make it easier for your mind to handle, because physical reality and the mental mind is not necessarily used to perceiving things directly on a higher plane, a higher level. So it uses whatever symbols and representations and feelings give it the ability to transmit the experience to your memory in physical terms, but it will still often feel a little bit like a dream because it doesn't interpret the reality in which you had the experience as being as real as physical reality. Therefore, it will usually have a dreamlike quality, even though you can tell that it's something a little bit different than what you would call a typical dream.
But is it the same thing as a lucid dream?
To some degree, it can be, but a lucid dream basically is like taking actual dream elements and controlling them.
It's not necessarily a memory of an interaction. It's being awake in the dream state and working with the props that you are generating and creating with your consciousness in a more conscious way, in a more aware way, but doesn't mean you're actually communicating with another entity.
And how can a person have greater trust for their guides? Like this person is saying they get messages from their guides and they follow them, and it seems to be very good for them. But at the same time, there's other times where he just refuses to listen.
Well, that's the choice of the individual, and the individual would have to investigate themselves to find out what the difference is between paying attention to one source of information as opposed to not paying attention to the same source in a different circumstance. So you would have to investigate yourself to find out why you're defining the different circumstance as being so different and making you unwilling to pay attention there when you are willing to pay attention another time. So what's going on within you and your belief systems, and you need to find out how you're defining those two moments as being so different for some reason.
Could that also be the idea of anxiety, that if a guide were to say, don't say this, or, you get that sort of hit that says, no, don't do this.
That's
And
not
yet
usually how guides operate. Guides don't often say don't. They will give you an alternative to do. Do this instead. They don't usually say don't, therefore not producing anxiety. The anxiety is coming from the individual being afraid of doing what the guide suggests.
Right.
So it's the individual, the physical individual, that is telling themselves don't, not the guide.
Okay. And this person is saying your teachings are the first they've encountered that they haven't been able to poke holes in. And because of that, they feel a genuine sense of hope, but they don't know how to proceed. Wait. Sorry. Let me try this again.
All right.
Okay. Your teachings are the first they've encountered that they haven't been able to poke holes in. And for that, they feel a genuine sense of hope. But at the same time, they struggle with a feeling like a pervasive cult mentality in the world around them. Can you talk about how to navigate and respond to the issue of people sort of being in cults and the difference between that and what is being accomplished through your transmissions?
Well, cults generally are attempting to provide a source of information that will control what it is you decide to do. Conversely, we are leaving it up to you to decide what to do. We are giving you your autonomy. We are giving you your independence. We are giving you self-possession. But the idea is that a cult will attempt to manipulate the way in which you are able to make decisions to go along with what certain members of the cult would prefer that you do. So it's more of a coercive energy rather than something that says, here's some information, do with it what you will. They're not trying to manipulate you or, in that sense, rule you or run your life for you, as a cult might do. That's generally the basic definitional difference between a cult and any other source of information that simply provides the information but leaves it completely up to you as to what to do with it. Whereas a cult attempts to tell you what to do with it in very specific terms that usually involve methods of control.
Okay, and this person is saying that during a meditation, I asked where souls come from. The word nebula dropped into my mind. A nebula is a star that is being formed or dying. Thus, we are stardust. How accurate is this?
Well, physiologically, yes, you are stardust. You are made up of the atomic components that stars give off, and they collect in different ways and combinations to create the physical life that you understand in the physical universe. But souls themselves are non-physical. Now, there can be an intermediary form, something that we refer to often as electromagnetheric energy, which is in some senses somewhat similar to what your scientists refer to as a different form of plasma, the idea of a very rarefied form of energy matter that acts as a kind of bridge between the two realms and can represent certain patterns within that plasma that are representative of thought patterns and consciousness and awareness. So souls are energy, but there can be a level in which the soul densifies itself, so to speak, concentrates itself, so to speak, as to then produce what might be a quasi-physical representation of the energy patterns of consciousness in the soul that then can translate into physical materiality using the building blocks of physical reality and arranging them in a way that allows consciousness to best express itself in physical terms. So you're actually talking about three different levels of reality: non-physical, quasi-physical, and physical in this process.
This person is saying that recently someone shared that you visited them in your dreams, in their dreams, and you said that the experience was real.
Yeah.
That excited me because you visited me in my dreams a short while back, and I woke up with gratitude but doubted the experience. Will you talk to us more about these visits?
Quite often, the idea of having an interaction with any of you involves a previous interaction in non-physical reality, in the astral state, the dream state. So the idea is that it's kind of like setting up on your life path that these kinds of interactions will happen. Whether they happen physically or over electronic medium doesn't make a difference. The idea is that you're interacting with us and we're interacting with you. And therefore, very often, we will have preliminary interactions to set things up, to lay them out, so that they will then manifest more easily in physical materiality. So it's quite common for us to interact and contact many of you in the dream or aware states on higher planes before it actually manifests in physical reality.
Okay, thank you. And once our vibration is high enough to achieve fourth density, will the veil be lifted so that we're able to remember all of our other incarnations on Earth and elsewhere?
Well, there will be more opportunity for that, but it will still depend on whether it's relevant for you to remember them. You don't necessarily have to remember all of them. So when you are in spirit, then yes, you can access all of it. But in physical reality, even when you are operating in what we call the frequency of fourth density, it may not necessarily always be relevant to access every single incarnation you've ever had, but you will certainly have more capacity to access the ones that are relevant for this life path.
Okay, and when a person passes onto another dimension, how long do they stay there before possible reincarnation? And once incarnated, can we still send messages to them?
Yes, you can always send messages, and some part of them will always receive it. On average, though there are many exceptions depending on circumstances, on average, most souls will reincarnate in periods of about 80 to 100 years because the next lessons that they're laying out on a new life path probably won't necessarily be capable of being experienced unless the society that they're reincarnating into has changed sufficiently to allow for those experiences to happen. So many souls will wait for society on Earth to evolve to a point where the new lessons they want to learn are possible to have because of the changes that the society has then gone through in that amount of time. So that's an average. Nevertheless, it doesn't mean that a soul can't reincarnate very quickly. It just depends on the reason, the purpose, the circumstances as to why they might choose to do so.
So in order for a person to incarnate, basically all the elements of what they are going to put in their life plan need to be accessible in a sense during their lifetime based on
Yes.
where the society is
Well,
also.
yes. Otherwise, what would be the point?
It's fascinating. You can even look back at childhood for people who are older and see how dramatically the society has changed from, when you were 10 years old or something
Yes.
like that.
Yes, that's why we are also saying that a lot of the children being born more recently are like a new species because there are so many more things available to them now and will become available to them during the lifetime that they will live in physical reality by being born more recently now.
And there's a lot of focus right now on immersive entertainment, and um, perhaps 20 years ago, it would have seemed impossible to experience some of the things we can experience now, like in the sphere or those kinds of geographic or, I'm sorry, graphic representations of things
Yeah.
so that it's actually immersive. Can you say anything about just this change that has happened, that we've actually moved to a new level of that?
Well, yes, it's a step in the direction of understanding that you are in the ultimate immersive reality that you're creating, which you call physical reality. So the idea is that the more real your immersive entertainment seems, in a sense, the less difference there will be between the idea of what you experience as physical reality and what you experience as something you have created, therefore blurring the lines so that you understand that even physical reality is being created by your consciousness as the ultimate immersive experience.
Wonderful. What is the actual difference between seeing spirits with your eyes in your living room and seeing spirits on the astral plane? Is there a difference? And if so, why?
Well, yes, there's a vibrational frequency difference because if you're seeing them on the astral plane, you have taken yourself to their territory vibrationally. You are less physical. You have raised your frequency to the point where you can interact with relatively non-physical entities. Whereas if you see them in your physical reality, then they've come to you. They've lowered their vibrational frequency to make themselves more perceivable by your physical senses. So the difference is in vibrational frequency. And in the first case, you've gone to their territory. And in the second case, they have come to your territory.
Okay, and this person wants to know what they should do if it's their highest excitement to talk to someone, but the person they want to talk to doesn't want them around.
Well, number one, make sure that it's actually representative of your excitement and not anxiety, because many people will disguise their anxiety as excitement, as an excuse to think that something must happen and must be real, but they're getting feedback from society that that's not necessarily the case. Therefore, you have to stop imposing assumptions on what it is you're experiencing as if you are labeling that just because I feel it this way, it must mean this or that this has to happen in a certain direction. So, this is the ability to practice not imposing societal expectations and insistences on the connections and attractions you may feel, because if you let them be what they truly are, you may realize that they're happening for a completely different reason to teach you a lesson about something going on within yourself. More importantly than it is about actually connecting to that person in the way that you think the attraction should be allowing you to do so. Look for the lesson that's actually there, not the experience you think should be there.
Is that similar to the idea another person wrote in about meeting someone years ago that they thought was their soulmate and being so excited about having a relationship with that person, and then it didn't work out, and they
Yes.
are just confused about why they would be shown that this person was their soulmate, and then
Yes.
it
Well, first and foremost, every single person you interact with is capable of reflecting to you what you need to learn as the lessons you laid out on your life path, which in a sense makes everyone that you interact with at that moment your soulmate. So we would suggest, although we understand what people on your planet mean by that, we would suggest that you stop looking for the soulmate specifically in the form of one person, and start really validating the value that you get out of every interaction you have with everyone being at that moment your soulmate, and therefore stop imposing societal expectations and insistences on the strength of the attraction, meaning that certain things must play out, because you may be completely missing the point of the relationship by imposing those artificial standards on it.
So, in a circumstance like that, what would you, how would you define unrequited love? Because it sounds like that's one of the after effects that that person was experiencing.
Well, it's exactly what we just described. Unrequited love is not paying attention to the real reason that the relationship exists. It's a naive assumption that the feeling you have and the connection that you feel must mean a certain thing as imposed by the training you receive from society, as opposed to actually looking at it as it truly is for what the purpose is that it serves in your life for you to learn the lessons you need to learn, and therefore possibly serve the other in learning the lessons they need to learn. But remember, it's not always a one-to-one reflection. So being attracted to someone and not getting a response may simply be a reflection of the fact that they don't have as much to learn in that relationship as you do, but they're willing to provide themselves as a foil to have you bounce off of the connection you feel for them. But it's not really as much their lesson as it is your lesson to learn from it what you need to move on and really become transparent to yourself about the fact that you may be imposing all sorts of definitions and understandings and misunderstandings about what the relationship is actually for, that will help put you in touch with the fact that you may have belief systems that don't work for you.
So, some of the ET groups that we may be interacting with, do they have these issues of romantic love and drama, etc., that
No.
seem to have? And how do they avoid that? Is it
I just told you. They are willing to become transparent to themselves to the point where they understand that they do not need to impose any definition on a relationship as it unfolds. They simply allow the relationship to put them in touch with what they need to be put in touch with to help them for their soul's growth. They do not have any insistences or assumptions about what the relationship is for with regard to the idea of societal structures.
um your explanation of how the universe works resonates with this person, yet I see many other perspectives from different people and channelers that are quite different. Why do experiences and conclusions vary so much when it seems that diving deeply should lead everyone to a more universal understanding of reality and the universe?
Ultimately, it does if you dive deeply enough. But everyone needs to get there along a different path because everyone has a different personality, different belief systems, different things they will and won't respond to. So sometimes information is given to an individual for the purpose of getting them to move ahead in some way, shape, or form. It's not about the idea that the information may be completely and totally representative of the ultimate deep diving truth, but it is something that is reflective of what the person needs to experience as a process they need to go through to get them to go through that process in order that they may ultimately arrive at the deep diving truth. But for now, they need to hear things in a certain way that will relate to their belief system and get them to actually take a step in that direction.
And why do some elite people do such dark things?
Well, the fact that you're calling them elite is sort of a misnomer. The idea is it doesn't matter what position they hold in society, it has no effect on if they're holding on to negative and fear-based belief systems, and therefore forcing them to act out in ways that are not necessarily beneficial. So it's nothing to do with their societal status. It has everything to do with what beliefs they're holding on to that are simply out of alignment with their soul vibration.
Okay. And with all lives happening now,
One moment.
can a
One moment. We understand that their position in society, what you are referring to as elite status, may give them the opportunity more than other people to act out because they feel unencumbered by the rules and regulations of typical society. Therefore, they may be more demonstrative of acting out their negative and fear-based beliefs because they don't think that the rules apply to them. So the elite status may give them, in their mind, more permission to simply act those things out, but it still comes down to the fact that it's not about being elite that it causes them to do that. It may give them more wherewithal to act them out, but nevertheless, it starts with the fact that they're still holding on to negative definitions, negative belief systems that are simply not working for them, but they don't understand that.
Okay, and this question is, with all lives happening now, can a profound event in one of a person's lives energetically bleed into another of their lives? Like having a phobia that makes no sense in one life, it makes sense in another. Can you comment on that?
We're going to say yes and no. The idea is this. You, as the soul you are, plan out the different kinds of things you will experience as lessons in this life for this life path. Those things are set up by the soul before the incarnation, linearly speaking. Now, because the soul has set up certain kinds of lessons, let's say experiencing a phobia and working through that, you may be able to tap into other parallel experiences or other incarnational experiences that were similar, but it's not that it's coming from that parallel or other incarnational life. It's simply that it may be something you're tapping into because you are operating on a frequency that is similar to what another being is going through in that parallel reality, or the soul going through in another incarnation that then helps reinforce what your soul decided to experience in this life. But it's not coming from that life. It's not being caused by bleed through from the other life. Any sort of overlap is simply an identificational resonance or a mirroring that reinforces what you have chosen to experience, what you have laid out to experience for this life.
And speaking of phobias, can you shed a little light on the idea that claustrophobia can be related to going through the birth trauma?
Well, again, that's one thing that may be utilized to reinforce something that the soul chose to experience as a condition. Therefore, it will utilize any variation of what goes on in physical reality to reinforce that, so it will really create a solid feeling that that's a real experience that you can then deal with to learn your lessons. So it's not, again, that just one incident like that may cause the idea of the phobia, but all of those different things that may be related to it to reinforce it will be utilized by the soul to add to the idea that this is something that is real and solid and that you have to deal with in your life and work through it through a process. So when you relate to different kinds of aspects of things that may be relatable to that particular phobia or feeling or experience, then you can go down a checklist of, well, this experience is sort of similar to that, and this experience is sort of similar and may have reinforced this idea, and this experience being very different may have reinforced it as well. But all those things are being used to reinforce it just so the soul will ensure it's going to deal with that as the experience it decided to deal with to learn a lesson in this life path.
So phobias in general are like a teaching tool that the life sets up
Yes.
that challenges you to go through some sort of transformative experience to relinquish the phobia.
Yes.
Is that, and that would be similar even to an illness or an injury or
Yes.
all of those kinds of
Yes.
things.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Remember, this is a school. These are your lessons. So you set up the curriculum, and therefore you reinforce it however you can so that it seems real. Because again, remember, physical reality is just a projection. So you have to create experiences that make it seem reinforced so that you'll actually have something to go through, something to test yourself with. Otherwise, it would all just evaporate, and then no lesson would be learned, and you'd be right back where you were before the incarnation.
yes, we are all very brave to come here.
You are.
You often say, if it's relevant to you.
Yes.
Does that mean that not everything is possible for everyone?
Of course. It's not relevant for everyone. When you lay out a life path, there are many, many, many things that are simply not relevant for you to experience on that life path. There are some things that are collectively relevant. There are some things that are individually relevant. And there are many things that are not relevant on either level. So it just depends on the relevance of a thing as to whether or not that's something you're going to experience on your life path. Does it serve you to learn the lessons you agreed to learn? Yes or no? Many things don't. Some things do.
And is essentially the lesson to choose love as opposed to fear?
In general, on a very general sense, yes. Now, again, the lessons can get more specific as it goes down the line, as you concretize or crystallize what the specific themes and lessons are for this life, then yes, you can go from the general to the specific. So what is the lesson, let's say, for an individual who might generally be looking at the difference between love and fear, but how does it express itself in your specific life lesson path? Is it about the idea of relationships? Is it about the idea of your relationship to abundance? Is it about your idea of the relationship to interactions with other people in work or play or what have you? Or is it about you investigating yourself to find out why you might be reluctant to not express yourself? So there can be many different ways in which to explore the difference between love and fear as it becomes more specific for the things you chose to experience, the lessons you chose to learn on this particular life path.
This person needs some help with a dream they had. Their mother died a few days ago. She was ill for years and mostly immobile, and dementia had taken over. I didn't get to say goodbye. I was standing in front of the hospital ward where they tried to resuscitate her. Her heart gave out. Tonight, I dreamt of her. In the dream, she was ill. Then suddenly she got up, changed her clothes, and came back looking the way she looked 14 years ago before the illness. She smiled at me. I asked her to give me her hand, which was paralyzed from the stroke, and she did, like nothing ever happened. I was happy, but then started to cry because I realized she was dying. Was this just my brain, or was it my mom sending me a message that she's okay now?
It is your mother sending you a message that in spirit she is perfectly fine. How more obvious could this be? She has changed the clothes and changed the appearance to something that represents her more preferred self, which you can do in spirit. Changing the clothes is symbolic of dropping the clothing of physical reality and taking on the quote unquote spiritual raiment or garment, so to speak. Now she is her true self, and therefore wanted to make sure you knew she was fine. So absolutely, she has none of the things that she was experiencing in physical reality. She is her true soul self, saying hello to you to let you know she's fine. This is not your imagination.
And this person is saying in their daydreams and lucid dreams, they often find themselves flying through the sky and then going through a portal-like tunnel. And when they pass through the tunnel, they feel an incredibly strong beam or vibration in their body. And when they come out, they arrive at a pool or an ocean with dolphins. and they feel really happy and go towards the dolphins, saying, "It's been such a long time." And just as I approach them, I wake up. What does this mean?
You're having an astral travel experience and you are connecting to the Sirius vibration through the dolphins. But for now, you don't need to go further because it would distract you from living the life path that you have chosen to live. So it's enough to show you that you have that connection to the Sirius energy and to the dolphins, that you are astral traveling to have certain kinds of experience and the gathering of certain kinds of knowledge that can aid and assist you in moving forward and inspire you in physical reality. But you can't go too far because then that would erase the purpose of having certain kinds of physical experiences. It would spoil the surprises for you that are coming up in your life.
Okay, and this person is saying that as they were falling asleep, they had a visceral vision of being stoned to death. They felt the experience of becoming disfigured and accepting that their body was breaking as they began to leave their body. It was gruesome but freeing, and they're curious why they would experience this violent vision.
This is a memory of a past life death, and you're using it as a symbol to allow you to understand how you are indestructible ultimately as a soul, as a spirit, no matter what happens to the body. And therefore, it inspires you to move forward without fear because you understand that it's all right to try whatever is representative of your passion without worrying in this lifetime that you will be destroyed for it. You can move forward, you can rise above it. So you're using it as a symbol to understand that death is not the end and that physical reality is just a projection of consciousness. And you're using it as a symbol of energy to move forward in acting on your passion in service to others.
Okay, and in this question, the person asks, Willa mentions that if we access higher levels of frequency before anchoring to the earth, as in the first level of mastery, we can get lost and confused. Is this what is meant by psychic shock? And can you elaborate on this more and what actions to take to return to equilibrium?
Well, spending more time in nature, connecting to nature in a variety of ways can help balance you and ground you so that you don't experience the idea of massive disorientation when exploring higher frequencies. It's a balancing act. And yes, the disorientation, the confusion that can come without grounding in exploring higher frequencies is what is generally meant as psychic shock, although there are variations and different degrees of that that can be experienced depending upon what fear-based or negative beliefs you might be holding on to, that through the exploration of higher frequencies might be released into your awareness and your consciousness before you're ready to deal with it, before you're ready to integrate it. So psychic shock can mean different levels of things, but in general, it's the disorientation that you might feel by not necessarily being connected to physical reality sufficiently when exploring the idea of higher frequencies. So connecting in nature, being in nature physically, and so on and so forth can help ground you so that you can explore higher frequencies without becoming unbalanced.
And does the channel's last name Anka or Anka derive from the Egyptian word Ankh? And if so, would you like to comment on its significance?
No, both the name Anka and the Egyptian word Ankh derive from an earlier language of Atlantean times. The original word is Anu-Ka, Anu-Ka, which means the spirit of the Anu, the spirit of the original extraterrestrial civilization that introduced their genetics into early hominids to create Homo sapiens sapiens. So it comes from an early Atlantean recognition of that genetic line, which was referred to as Anu-Ka, the spirit of the Anunnaki, the spirit of Anu.
Mm. And to become more aware of telepathy, how does telepathy differ from what we experience as our own thoughts?
Well, it's not that it differs so much, it's just that Having telepathy allows you to have the thoughts that are similar to someone else on the same wavelength. So it's not that it necessarily feels very different than having a thought. It's just that when you are operating telepathically, you start to realize that you are having the same thoughts at the same time as someone else, and therefore don't require as much speaking verbally in order to know what each other is thinking.
Okay. And can you elaborate on what we call the physical universe? From my perspective, it seems like a cosmic playground that souls can temporarily explore through incarnation.
That is the correct perception. That's what it is. Again, there are many forms of that idea. We call it a school, but yes, it can be a playground. So it just depends upon your point of view and how you use it. But yes, it is something that is created to allow the soul to have certain experiences that it cannot have in non-physical reality, and therefore it enriches the soul and accelerates the soul's awareness and growth through experiences that are only found in physical terms.
Okay. And can you elaborate on how we can safely use negative themes in creation of art, such as fear, violence, pain, and suffering? Um, this person is saying they find art more impactful when it explores those themes, but then they're concerned that this may not be a safe thing to do.
Is that the way the question is actually formed?
It says they find it comforting that art allows them to experience these things in a safe way, but how safely can you use negative themes in the creation of art?
Then they have answered their own question, and we sense that the question was not completed. So the fact that they're saying they find that they can safely investigate the idea of negative themes in art and that they already understand that it can be safe answers their question. And therefore it can act as a catharsis for people to explore those things in a safe environment so they don't necessarily have to experience them in their physical lives. In much the same way that people like to go to scary movies and feel scared for a little while, but then come out of the theater in the light of day knowing that they got to experience some process something without necessarily having to have a detrimental experience in physical reality. So yes, this person has answered their own question by saying they already know that they can create safe ways of expressing negative ideas for people to have cathartic experiences by using art.
And can you speak about the loneliness epidemic? This person says when someone struggles to forgive those who have hurt them or continue to do so, how can they approach forgiveness in a way that truly allows them to let go? So I guess they're saying there's a connection between their loneliness and the decision about forgiveness.
Well, this is simply a choice to not move forward, to anchor yourself to the past, to constantly repeat the vibrational frequency you say you don't prefer for some reason of your own choosing, whether that's conscious or unconscious. So again, understand that forgiveness has nothing to do with excusing something that was perpetrated against you. It has everything to do with detaching yourself from constantly holding on to the vibrational frequency of victimization that doesn't allow you to move forward. So break the chain by forgiving the idea not only of the perpetrator, but yourself for holding on to the energy. Forgiveness is not something that excuses the perpetration of a negative act. Forgiveness is breaking the chain that holds you to victimization so you can move forward.
Connected with that, I saw another question where the person was asking, how do you determine who's the victim in a situation where both people think the other person is abusing them?
Both are victims because it takes a victim to make a victim. Therefore, anything that has to do with the idea of abuse that you don't walk away from, you are playing the victim.
And this person is saying they struggle with loneliness like many other people. Does that mean that they're if they struggle to have a relationship with their own kind, that they'll also struggle to have any kind of relationship with ETs.
Yes. Understand, it's all about understanding how to be by yourself, how to function as yourself, how to find your self-empowerment, how to be a whole person. It's not about the idea of needing others. It's about the idea of making connections by being connected within yourself. So the people that, as you say, struggle with loneliness are holding on to belief systems that cut them off from feeling their connection to themselves and to source and feeling their value in life. So they are devaluing themselves sufficiently so that they feel cut off from everything and thus feel alone and lonely.
And perhaps it's connected with what this person is saying here, that for as long as they can remember, they don't feel like they belong on Earth and they long for home. So
But
to the point where they became.
This is not something that causes loneliness. It's something that they are misunderstanding because they've never been taught that they are a universal being. It's not something that is typically taught on your planet, to understand that you don't have to feel homesick. You understand that you're creating this experience by your own choosing for your own purposes. So again, you attended this school. You don't have to be homesick because you understand that you're learning things in this school that are going to help you become an independent person, a self-reliant, self-empowered person, self-empowered soul. So focus on the idea that this is your choice to be where you are. Open up to the lessons you can learn and open up to the idea of becoming a self-reliant, independent being.
Okay, and do we have to have goals, targets, or objectives to live our best life? Or is it simply following the formula well enough and you don't need those other things?
Following the formula allows you to create what may appear to be certain kinds of goals. Inspirations might be a better term, to move in a certain direction toward a certain manifestation through the actions that represent your passion. And in a sense, you could collectively say that's a kind of a goal. But the idea is to make sure that no matter what the goal may seem to be, no matter what the plan may seem to be, no matter what the route you are inspired to take may seem to be, to always leave room for things to change and go with the flow. So any plan you create, any goal you have, has to leave room for the plan to change. And if you're willing to go with the flow through self-empowerment and stay aligned within your true vibration, then you'll be able to handle any challenge that comes to you, any change that occurs in your life in a way that will actually move you forward. It's not, again, so much about the outcome as it is about the process and the experience and the lessons you learn along the way. In a sense, that's the goal. Sometimes what you call a goal is just a way to go about learning that lesson. It's not something that necessarily always needs to be achieved. But the idea is that looking at that goal, drawing yourself forward because of the goal, takes you through a process that gives you the information, understanding, and experience and lessons that you actually need. And therefore, the goal is accomplished already in attempting to achieve what appears to be the goal, which is really nothing more than the carrot that pulls you forward through the lessons you need to learn, which is actually the goal. It doesn't mean that certain things can't be manifested. It doesn't mean that certain things can't be achieved. But those are the natural manifestations and the result of learning the lessons that are the actual goal.
And back to the theme of loneliness, since human beings are social animals,
Yes.
and loneliness seems to be something that contributes to the idea of mental illness, can you help us understand what is a balanced way to experience physical reality instead of going to that space of, well, there's no one to talk to, there's
All right.
nothing.
First and foremost, remember that it is one of the 7 basic needs to have a connection. That doesn't necessarily always mean a connection to another human being. But the idea is you have to have relationship, you have to have connection, you have to have an expression that you are connected to something. Now, of course, if you choose to have an incarnation into a human society, it is to some degree generally and typically representative of that connection to be connecting to other human beings. That's fine. You can connect to animals, you can connect to trees, you can connect to the stars, to God, to cosmos, to whatever you want, as long as you feel some sense of connection and relationship. But it starts with the idea, as we already expressed, that you have to remember you chose to be where you are. You chose to have this physical experience. When you start from the premise of taking responsibility for the fact that you must have had a good reason for choosing to have a physical experience, then you can start to feel the empowerment that goes along with that, rather than simply keying into the idea of, oh, I'm feeling so strongly that I miss where I came from, the spirit realm. I feel cut off and disconnected and alone because I'm not actually allowing myself to remember that I chose for my own reasons to have this physical experience. So let me investigate what it is I originally chose to get out of being where I am. And going from that perspective is what will allow you to start actually deciding to make certain connections to whatever you need to make connections with and have relationships to, in order to further the reasons you chose to experience being where you are, instead of just being homesick, because you're not paying attention to the fact that this was your choice. So that's where it starts to balance itself, by acknowledging that I am here by my choice. Why? Let me figure that out. Now it's a mystery. Now it's an adventure. Now look for the connections that you can make that will help you understand why you chose to be here.
So, and then the next step after that is like taking action. For example, you speak often about the importance of being service, and also the idea that when people feel depressed or unhappy, that the idea is to take action and do something to help someone else.
Yes, and that's
At
why
that,
we often suggest volunteering for something you otherwise might think you would volunteer for, because it takes you out of your routine. It breaks the chain, it breaks the habit, it breaks the pattern by doing something to volunteer, to be of service in something you never ordinarily would think you would do. It puts you in a state where you're more open and more receptive to receiving guidance from your guides as to what it is that might be more representative of your passion, whether it's actually the thing you're volunteering for or not. It simply takes you out of your pattern to do something like that. And that is also one of the steps that can really allow you to develop connections and relationships to other beings and other things in your life.
yes. Yes, because it seems like we're having sort of a time in our society where people are dealing with virtual reality now. So they're even more confused about what's real, what's not real. And that can cause a state of alienation if you can't tell that. Can you address that a little bit about?
It depends on how it's used, and it depends upon the degree to which someone is certain about their own identity. And this goes back to the idea of, again, remembering and taking responsibility that you chose to be here. And therefore, any experience you have, even ones of virtual reality, will always be factored through your ability to discern the difference as to what is and isn't relevant for who you are. But you have to know who you are. Again, this goes back to the ancient saying on your planet, know thyself. When you know that you chose to be where you are, and you know there are lessons that you wanted to learn, and you know that your passion will help you serve others as well as yourself, you will really start to know the difference between what is and isn't you. And that will help you with your discernment about how to use anything that you are offered in physical reality, including how to use the idea of virtual reality to your and everyone else's benefit instead of to your detriment. So it all goes back to knowing who you are.
And then this person is saying, well, how can they truly allow themselves to receive what they deserve without guilt or fear? Is it
Why
coming
would
back
they
to
think,
what you just...
why, if they have guilt and fear, then why would they think they deserve it? If they think they deserve it, then they don't have guilt and fear. This is a contradictory question. All they have to do is listen to the question to realize that they're simply choosing between deservability or guilt and fear. So one or the other. If you are feeling guilt and fear, you're saying, I don't deserve it. If you're saying, I deserve it, then you don't have guilt and fear. Make up your mind.
And perhaps this is what you've already answered, where it says, this person says, I feel afraid of fully stepping into my authentic self and into a full-bodied, embodied connection with Source. I'm afraid of rejection and isolation, which feels paradoxical.
It is paradoxical because you have already isolated and rejected yourself by being afraid to be who you are. So what else could you possibly experience that would be worse from someone else rejecting you because you've already rejected yourself by refusing to be who you are? Nothing could be worse than that. So since you've already experienced rejecting yourself, which is far, far worse than anyone else rejecting you because they're not living your life, you are. So if you're rejecting your own life, your own passion, your own truth, no one else can possibly reject you more than that. So by comparison, outside rejections are nothing compared to how much you're rejecting yourself by not being willing to move forward because you're afraid of their rejections. Their rejections are a piffle compared to how much you're rejecting yourself by not moving forward in your truth.
So it sounds like our level of evolution includes a lot of guilt, a lot of unknowing about who we really are. And as a result, there is a lot of mental illness, and there's a number of people who commit suicide over these ideas of not being worthy or
Yes. And that's also something they put on their life path to act as a demonstration that these are issues your society needs to deal with, so that people don't have to demonstrate the idea of the disconnection through suicide. So you have to deal with what we've been talking about. You have to balance yourselves. You have to explore these things, and you have to take responsibility for these things and find other ways and other perspectives to look at yourselves and be yourselves, so you stop rejecting yourselves and take yourself out through suicide. That's the lesson that these souls are teaching. You don't give us any other offer. You don't give us any other option, because you're not looking at the real basic causes of these things sociologically, emotionally, mentally, psychically, psychologically. You're not dealing with these issues in a real and honest way. You're just skimming over them and hiding the symptoms, and you're not dealing with it. And therefore, the result you get is that people have put on their life path suicide to demonstrate to you that you're not dealing with the things that you need to deal with.
So is that accurate, that if someone puts suicide on their life path, that that's the only way that you're capable of actually having a suicide, because otherwise your birth angels would block it, or it wouldn't be successful?
You cannot leave before your exit point. So it's part of the plan. And it's for that reason, among others, that I just told you about. It's to make society face the fact that it's not facing what it needs to face within itself.
So does that mean that can someone change that aspect of their life path if they have put suicide in that path?
It depends. If they will, what appears to change it, that will be part of what's on the life path. They will have given themselves the option to demonstrate a new reflection but that will also be an option that they originally put on the life path. Otherwise, what they're simply saying is the entire society, by acting the way you're acting, is committing suicide. Maybe slowly over time, but suicide nevertheless. It's just that as an individual, I'm accelerating that reflection by taking myself out individually, but I'm a reflection that the entire society is committing suicide. Now, if the society changes, of course, souls no longer need to incarnate and put on their life path anything like that. Because
Very powerful.
remember, in a sense, all death is suicide because you determined the time of your death. But the idea is the reason for it is what is being reflected. The idea of the disconnection, the negative beliefs, the fear-based beliefs that lead to things as you're talking about, like loneliness and so on and so forth, and depression and so on and so forth, and inability to function and so on and so forth. It's the reasons for the death, not the death. It's the reasons for the death that are being reflected to society, because everyone chooses their death. Everyone, in a sense, ultimately suicides. But they can suicide for a positive reason, which means it to you will only appear that they simply died of natural causes. Still suicide, because you've determined your exit point.
Fascinating. What is the most impressive spaceship or space station your people have encountered?
Impressive?
It's what they say. Impressive spaceship or space station.
Well, I suppose in your terms it would be there is one that is spherical, sort of like a small moon or planet, and has the ability to shift into different dimensions, and therefore is kind of like a hub or a way station. I'm going to put it perhaps a little bit comically like this. As it shifts into one dimension, beings from that dimension can board it. And then they will shift to another dimension where beings from that dimension can board it. And so on and so forth. So sort of like a bus stop in different dimensions, can take on and let go of different passengers that might get on and off in those different dimensions. So it is kind of like a device, a spaceship hub of different dimensionality that people can get on and off. And it's an easy way for them to travel to different dimensions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This one is, will ETs that meet us after open contact be willing to teach us regular people how to fly some of their spaceships?
Some, yes, not for quite a while, but yes, that's possible in the years to come. I'm not going to give you a timeline on that, but yes, it's possible. And to some degree, in a very limited way, behind the scenes, some of that is already going on. But yes, it can become more common after open contact, but it doesn't mean that there will be classes in your schools to learn how to fly a spaceship right away. But
No driver's ed?
some of that will become more possible, but not necessarily worldwide right away.
And you said the hybrids are here and involved in helping humans with our scientists and politicians.
Yes.
Does this mean that they're only interacting with important people and not with regular people?
They interact on rare occasions with what you are terming regular people, but there is always an important reason to do so. But the idea is it's not that you have to consider the scientists and other authority figures as more important than anyone else. It's simply based on what it is they do that will help humanity the best. So if they're in a particular field where hybrids can be of great assistance in helping humanity evolve and move forward, and then yes, they will work with those people. But that doesn't mean those people are more important. It might overall be what they're doing is more important for your society in general at large, but that doesn't make the person more important.
Okay, and what did the American institutions give in exchange for ET technology?
the ability to utilize human DNA in the hybridization process, among other things.
Anything regarding reverse engineering and what that
Some,
was given in exchange for, or was it given in exchange for something?
yes, and I just told you what it was, basically. There are other things, but that's one of the main ones. And we will not go into any detail further than that.
Okay. And this person is saying that when they were 10 years old, in the middle of the day, they saw a silver rectangular object pass over their head, emitting a subtle vibration. At the same time, their classmates at football training several kilometers away also witnessed it. Who or what were these visitors?
This is most likely a Pleiadian shuttle ship, shuttling beings from the surface or up to another ship or a mothership, or from the mothership down to the surface of your planet.
Okay. And do birthmarks signify any ET or hybrid specific connections? This person has a big birthmark on the back of their neck, and they were wondering if there's any special meaning attached to that.
Not with regard to extraterrestrial connections, no. It might be connections to other kinds of things, other lives, so on and so forth, might be representative of different things in this life as a symbol, but not so much the idea of connecting to extraterrestrials in any significant way. No.
Okay, and can you speak about the significance of spirals both within living beings and throughout the universe? What do they represent, especially at this time on Earth, and how can we consciously work with or activate this pattern within our bodies and our minds?
Well, you can meditate on it as a symbol, as a permission slip. It represents the active principle of creation. That's what the spiral generally represents, although sometimes spirals are actually representative of portals as well. So the idea is, in general, as a symbol, it's a representation of the active principle in creation. As a different kind of symbol, it can often be representative of the location of a portal.
Okay, and were ETs in contact with Leonardo da Vinci, or where did his genius come from?
Well, again, many of you have the capacity to tap into the Akashic records if you are of the correct vibrational frequency. Now, there may have been extraterrestrial communication, being that there may be extraterrestrials on his spirit team, so to speak, and he may have had certain kinds of downloads and so on and so forth. But in general, he simply had the capacity to really tap into the Akashic records and see what the past, present, and futures contained, and then translated some of those things into his interpretations and understandings of the technology of his time.
And you've explained that when open contact occurs, one thing we can look forward to is seeing our true history by holographic means. Does this also mean that we can learn about our personal history, or will it be general information?
Well, there will be things introduced into your society that will allow you to investigate your own personal history more specifically. But the history that we're talking about is the general history of your entire world.
Okay, and
finally,
yes, this is the finally. Could you tell us why cats make this funny sound when they're watching birds? Is it some kind of a brain anomaly? It seems like if it happened in the wild, it would cause their prey to flee.
this is actually the result of a couple of different things. Number one, it's the result of the fact that they actually live among humans and are to some degree suppressing their urge to actually attack things. But they have to release that energy somehow. And sometimes they will release it through that kind of a sound. But it also can be used by them, now not exactly in the same way, but it actually can be used as a kind of echolocation device, kind of like dolphins and bats, to actually determine the location and distance more precisely of their prey. And there's a couple of things beyond that we won't go into at this time.
Okay, so is there anything else that you'd like to share with us
As
at
I
this
said,
moment?
finally, it is time for all of you to relax and continue with the remainder of this transmission by breathing gently and easily and moving forward. Allow yourselves at this time to become relaxed. Breathe deeply and easily. Allow yourselves to drift and dream. Let the body relax. Let go of the cares and the worries of your day. Breathe. Feel calm. Feel at ease. Allow yourself to imagine that there is a light in the center of your brain, between the two hemispheres. Imagine that light growing, a beautiful, bright light, soft yet powerful, filling your brain so that the entire brain ultimately is glowing with this light. And know that this is the template for the physicalization of consciousness, arranging itself in a way that allows for the vibrational frequencies to exist whereby you can more readily connect to spirit so that you can sense the thinning of the veil, its gossamerness, its diaphanous nature, so thin, separated by the merest fraction of a frequency between physical and non-physical reality, so close to one another. No matter how solid physical reality may seem, it is but one small step away from non-physical existence. You are a spirit being. You are a soul. The more you get in touch with the fact that you are a soul, that you don't have a soul, you are a soul, the more you allow more of your soul to express itself through what you call the physical form, by acting on your passion, by following the formula, the better antenna, the better receiver you will be, the more you will start to extend your senses into the realm of spirit again, the more you will see from the soul's perspective, the more you will express the soul's perspective of life, of awareness, of being. Breathe, and with every breath, that light in the center of your brain goes brighter, like you are stoking the flames of eternity, stoking the flames of spirit, stoking the fire of awareness, and expanding it to reach out and stretch, to connect to those who guide you, to those who watch over you, to those who love you unconditionally. Breathe that light into brightness. Let it expand and illuminate your reality. Let it light your path. Let it guide the way. Let it be the eternal lantern that never goes out, that you always have access to. Breathe and grow brighter and glow brighter and be more the light that you are. Be more the light in the world that you all are. The light of the world, the light in the world. Be the light you are. Shine forth for each other to show the way of being who you truly are, the way of being you, uniquely you, not like everyone else, but different in the ways that supports everyone else,
different in the ways that benefit everyone else, different in the way where you allow yourself to understand that if your difference didn't exist, then existence would be incomplete. Truly, all the differences that you all are what completes all that is. And all that is all those differences, all the different reflections it can be. And the light reveals all those reflections more clearly, more sharply, more definitively, more certainly, more truly. Be transparent, let the light glow forth, penetrating your skin, shining forth. Be transparent, let it out. Let people see it, let people know it. Be of service to others. Be the lantern that lights their way as it lights your way as well, so that their lantern can grow brighter and help to light your way, so that there is more light in the world and more life, true life. Breathe it in and be the light. Keep breathing, keep growing, keep glowing, keep being who you uniquely are. Our unconditional love to you all. Ave. Good day.
All you will ever discover in the deepest, darkest, most fearsome abyss. You will discover nothing but